Hello bookworms! Today I'm going to be doing my last monthly wrap-up of all time. I'm going to be switching up the way that I structure my wrap-ups, and instead of waiting until the end of the month and then posting one really long wrap-up, I'm now going to make wrap-ups for every 5 books that I read. I feel like that's a good amount of books to include. It gives you some good options to choose from. It will definitely cut down on the length of these wrap-ups, and the fun thing too is that then they'll also be more frequent because I tend to read about 10-ish books per month, so you'll probably get roughly 2 wrap-ups per month. But also, one of the things that is good for me is that I will feel way less stressed out toward the end of the month when I'm like, oh my god, I only have one day that I have to finish these 2 books in so that I can include them in this wrap-up. So that will be really nice. Here we go. The first book that I'm going to talk about is Leviathan Weeks by James S.A. Corey. I talked about this book at the very end of my November wrap-up, but I wanted to properly wrap it up here because I had only read half of it at that point, which is a good chunk of it, but now I have completed it. It was the first book that I finished in December, and I really thoroughly enjoyed this book. For those who don't know, there is a television adaptation of this story that's on the Sci-Fi Channel called The Expanse, and I had already previously watched that. I already had a grasp on the story from watching that, but I felt like reading the book really just expanded everything further and helped me better understand what was going on. One major difference that I will say is that there are more characters in the show that are followed, whereas this book was only told through 2 perspectives. So we got the perspective of Miller, who is the detective, and we also got the perspective of Holden, who is one of the guys on this ship. It takes place in a world where humans have kind of colonized the solar system. Mars is a habitable planet and there are a lot of people living on there. And then there's also another section of the solar system called the Belt, which are rocks, and there are a bunch of people that live there too, and their anatomy is slightly different than those of humans. Just like every society, there are lots of race and class issues that are discussed in here. The politics between each of the different governments is really interesting, and just everything that this built toward was so fascinating. So if you like political things, I would definitely suggest reading this. I feel like sometimes with sci-fi novels, it can be a little bit challenging to really get into the mind of the character that you're reading from or really grow to love them. But these characters were so fully developed and they each had their flaws and they each had their really good character traits, and it really just pushed the story forward, and it really kept me interested throughout the entire 561 pages, and I really loved it, and I can't wait to read the next book in the series, and I gave this one 5 out of 5 stars. Next, I read This Mortal Coil by Emily Suvada, and this is actually another sci-fi novel, but this one does not take place in space. This one is a biological thriller. It follows a girl named Katerina, who is the daughter of the world's leading geneticist. After this virus has kind of overtaken the world, she has to team up with a soldier from this company that her dad told her never to trust in order to try to find a vaccination and essentially save the world. And this whole book was just so thrilling. I've said it a ton of times, but every single chapter ended with some huge cliffhanger, insane plot thing happening. So it really kept me flipping the pages and just wondering how they were going to get out of the situations that they were in, and if they were going to be able to do what they could do to save all of the other humans that were depending on them. And it was so good. And also you didn't really know if you could trust the soldier whose side he was on. Katerina also begins to learn more about her father as she starts uncovering some of the clues that he left for her. And I just thought this one was such a page turner. It really was very thrilling, and it completely took me by surprise because I was not expecting to love this one the way that I did, but it really stuck with me. It was one of my favorite reads of the year, and I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. Then I read Maybe in Another Life by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This is a book that follows a girl named Hannah, and it follows her 2 parallel lives. At the beginning of the story, there's one major choice that she is given to make, and the story is told one chapter if she had made one choice, and then the next chapter would be if she made a different choice, and it kept flip-flopping back and forth throughout the entirety of the book. I really liked this one. I always love when you have that look into something that could have happened. I thought it was interesting to see the way that her storyline played out when she made both choices. While I didn't really like the relationships in this book, the one that I did love was the friendship between Hannah and her best friend. I thought they were super adorable, and that was really like the heart of the novel for me and what kept me reading. I ended up giving this one 3 out of 5 stars. Then I read Beneath the Sugar Sky by Seanan McGuire, and this is the 3rd book in the Wayward Children series. I really loved this one just just like I did its predecessors. This book takes us back to Eleanor West's School for Wayward Children, and this is more of like a fantasy like quest novel, and I don't want to give anything away, but this one to me had major like Alice in Wonderland vibes. It largely took place in a world where everything is made of candy, which was pretty fun. I'm just so amazed at the way that Shauna Maguire was able to write such a different novel for each book in this series and yet have them all cohesively make sense together. So I did really enjoy this one. I don't think it was my favorite. It's so hard to pick because they're all just so different from each other, but I think that Down Among the Sticks and Bones might be my favorite in the trilogy, but don't hold me to that because it's so hard to choose. But I really liked this one and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. The next book I read is What I Lost by Alexandra Ballard. This is a book about a girl who is battling anorexia and she is signed into a hospital where she's undergoing treatment in order to try to get over her mental illness. This one also completely took me by surprise. I thought it was just going to be a quick contemporary read, and while it was, there was a lot of depth to it, and I really liked being inside of the character's head, and I really felt for her while she was struggling to overcome her eating disorder. I can't even imagine having those kinds of thoughts or anything. There was a ton of talk in it about food, about dress sizes, you know, jean sizes, like all of that kind of stuff. So it definitely talks about weight like constantly, but I really enjoyed it. I read the entire thing in one day because I couldn't put it down. I was so into the story and I just wanted to see how it was going to end and what was going to happen for this character that I grew to love. I thought it was really satisfying, and I will definitely read anything that Alexandra Ballard writes henceforth. I gave this one 5 out of 5 stars. Then I read Long Way Down by Jason Reynolds, and this book is a little bit different because it's actually told in verse. I also read this one in like a couple of hours because it's so quick to read books that are in verse. I thought the concept behind this was so cool, but I didn't love the execution. I didn't really dislike it, I just wanted more from it. So it follows a boy whose brother has just been shot, and the entirety of the book takes place in an elevator while this boy is in there planning on exacting revenge on the person who killed his brother. It was really interesting to see the thoughts that were going through his head, but I don't know, the language just didn't work for me and I just wanted like more out of it. So I gave this one 3 out of 5 stars. Next, I read Hunted by Megan Spooner, and this is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, and it came out earlier this year, and I am so glad that I got to it before the end of the year because it was one of my most anticipated releases. I really liked it. It had a Russian spin on it. The whole thing felt very fairy tale-esque, and it really went in a different direction than I was expecting, especially with the ending. I thought that it was very true to the original Beauty and the Beast fairy tale. I really liked Yeva, who was the beauty character. Also, the Beast was really interesting, and I liked that it was written from both perspectives. It was largely told from Yeva's perspective, but every other chapter was told by the Beast, even though his chapters were usually like just kept to one page. But I thought that it was really fun. It was a really good retelling. It's also a really good winter read just because it largely takes place in the winter. That made it like more atmospheric and more enjoyable for me. And I definitely recommend this one if you enjoy Beauty and the Beast. I ended up giving this 4 out of 5 stars. Then I read Meet Cute, which is edited by Jennifer L. Armentrout, but it includes stories from a ton of different young adult authors. It's all short stories about meet cutes. It was very, very cute, and I really enjoyed this anthology. As with most anthologies, there were some stories that I enjoyed a lot, and then there were other ones that were like kind of okay, and then there were other ones that I could have done without. But I think overall as a collection, it was really well done. It was diverse, it was adorable, and I definitely want to check out some authors' other work now, having been exposed to them in this. My favorite stories in here were Print Shop by Nina LaCour, The Intern by Sarah Shepard, Oh, Oomph by Emery Lord. I think that might have been my favorite of all of the stories. The Dictionary of You and Me by Jennifer L. Armentrout, and Click by Catherine McGee. Those ones were definitely my favorites. The Emery Lord one was so good, and I wish that we could get a full novel just about those characters because I vividly remember that story. It really stood out to me, and it's amazing how she can make you love people in just 20 pages. But I really loved them after like the first page. I was already invested in their relationship. So that just speaks to how talented talented she is as a writer. Overall, I gave this anthology 4 out of 5 stars, but each individual story would vary in their star rating. Then I read The Afterlife of Holly Chase by Cynthia Hand. This is the one Christmas book that I read this year. I am so disappointed in myself because I usually read so many Christmas books in December and I just didn't. I only read this one, but this one was great, so I'm glad that I did get to this one. I hadn't even been planning on reading it, but my friend Cassie really enjoyed it, so I was like, all right, I'll check it out. So I did, and I loved it. It follows a girl named Holly who was haunted by the 3 ghosts that you know of from the Charles Dickens story A Christmas Carol, and they gave her the one last opportunity to turn her life around, but she thought that it was a joke. She kind of laughed them off. She didn't take the ghosts seriously, and she just totally blew off what they said, and then she died the next morning, and she ended up in this like weird purgatory where she started working for the company that did this to her. So she becomes the ghost of Christmas Present. It's all about the story of like the Scrooge for that year that they're going to be haunting. It was really funny. The girl definitely was like not the best person, but she grows on you as you keep reading. And the current Scrooge, he had his moments. He was sometimes a bad guy and then other times not such a bad guy. And she developed a crush on him and she starts breaking all these rules, and it was just really entertaining. It's one of those books where it's like, it's not a great book, but it's just like a fun, mindless, quick read, and it was exactly what I wanted to read at the time when I picked it up. And I ended up giving this one 4 out of 5 stars. Then I read Love Life in the List by Casey West, and I finished this one like 10 minutes before I started filming this video. I was waiting to finish this until I could start, and I really loved this book. I think it might be my favorite Casey West book. It was so good. It follows a girl named Abby who is an artist and she really wants to get her art in this show, but she's told that she doesn't have enough experience. So she makes this list of things that she wants to do in order to get more life experience, and she just starts opening herself up to like all of these new things that she never would have tried before and all of these emotions that she's never experienced, and it's so good. And she completes a lot of the list with her best friend Cooper, who is this cute boy that she has had a crush on forever, but her love has always been unrequited. I really just loved this whole thing from start to finish. It made me so happy. I cried so much. And also her mom has anxiety, which was really interesting to read about and really relatable. And I love her grandpa. Her grandpa's the cutest man in the world. It made me feel like I want to like get out of my comfort zone in some areas where I have kind of gotten a little complacent. I thought Abby was a really admirable character, and I mean, it's a Casey West book, so you know what you're getting. It's like a cute contemporary, and it really just like checked all of the boxes for me, and I loved it. It had a couple of heavy moments, and I just think the whole thing was so well done, and I'm so glad that I read this. I love it so much. I gave this one 5 out of 5 stars. And then last, I reread Blue Lily Lily Blue and The Raven King, both on audiobook. I've been talking about this for a while because I reread the first 2 the past 2 months. Blue Lily Lily Blue is my favorite book in the series. I love it so much, and listening to the audiobook version was such a treat. I really enjoyed it. Meanwhile, The Raven King is my least favorite book in the series. So actually, I gave Blue Lily Lily Blue 5 out of 5 stars, of course, because it's my favorite. I love it. I think this is really when the story hits its climax and you just get so much action, and a lot of the things that were building in the first 2 books are finally addressed and different things start happening with them, and it just made it so exciting. And then The Raven King, while I do enjoy it, this series as a whole is one of my favorite YA series that is currently out there, but I do think that the finale is the weakest book. Going back and rereading this, I actually downgraded my rating from 5 stars to 4 stars, which I was surprised about because I was expecting it to be 5 stars. But I think I was just so excited to read it at the time that I like let that get to me while I was reading it. And then upon reread, and especially rereading all 4 of them consecutively within like a month or 2, showed me even more how strong the first 3 books were compared to this book. Still loved it. I feel like there was a character that was introduced in here that just came too late, so I didn't really care about him, and that took away from the story for me too, but I ended up giving this one 4 out of 5 stars. As for my classic book for this month, I was supposed to read A Little Princess, and I had a ton of books that came off of hold at the library for me, so I needed to read those before they would expire. It is now Saturday the 30th, and I'm planning on starting A Little Princess today. I know that I'm not going to finish it today or tomorrow, so I'm sure that it will be one of the first books that I complete in 2018. So I'm going to be trying to read 2 classics in January in order to make up for that, because I really wanted to read that this month and I'm sad that I didn't get to it. I think it was the combination of the library holds, and then also it always takes me a bit longer to read sci-fi than it does other books. So I spent a lot of time reading Leviathan Weeks and This Mortal Coil, and it didn't leave me as much time as I thought that I was going to have for A Little Princess later in the month. Let me know if you've read any of the books that I talked about, or if you have any opinions on them, and also let me know what your favorite book was that you read in December. And I hope that you guys all have a happy new year, and I'm so excited for 2018 because I have so much content planned. I have already filmed so many videos that are coming out in January, and I apologize in advance because there might be a couple weeks in the beginning where I'm just like overloading you with videos, but I want to get all of my best of lists up. I've been vlogging a little bit. I had to film an extra classics TBR because you guys said that you wanted to see that, so I have a lot of videos to share with you. Good luck with your 2018 reading goals, and I will see you soon with a new video. Bye!